Right. So, what this news effectively what's happened is Mark Zuckerberg, has had an update. He's had a personality update. So he's now human. No, what's happened is that expressly political things have happened. And he's come out and he's trying to buddy up with Donald Trump. And he's basically said, hey, we're going to bring free speech back to Facebook and Instagram. So I'm going to watch this. We're going to watch this together. We're going to start and stop some certain bits and pieces, which I think is poignant. And then, we can just sort of discuss it basically. But basically what's happened is everyone's having a meltdown because you can't have people saying what they want, of course. That's not allowed, you naughty boys. So it's interesting, and this will affect everyone to a degree, depending on, of course, what they choose to do with this. So let's have a watch. You guys should be able to hear this.
Hey, everyone. I want to talk about something important today because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political.
So let's just stop it there straight away. So a few things. Saying needs to get back to his roots is an admission that you've strayed. Right? It's an admission that you've strayed. I think a lot of this is actually quite well written to a degree. So it's an admission that he's strayed. He's talking about getting back to his roots, saying what he believes, why he invented social media. And let's not beat around the bush. People did create social media as effectively a bit of a shit posting tool anyway. That's why social media blew up the kind of way it did. That's why it attracted so many people. It was about saying what you wanted online. That was kind of the whole point of it. I don't think for 1 second Mark Zuckerberg went into social media wanting to be some weird maniacal megalomaniac where he's just stopping people from saying what he wants. I don't think that's the case, or as weird as he is. And then he goes on to just be like, yeah, it's clearly political. A lot of things have happened over the last few years, which denotes the Biden administration, and a lot of it's political. Now, I'm not saying he believes any of this stuff. I'm not saying he's not part to blame for any of this stuff either, as an FYI. But it's interesting that this is what he's publicly saying. So, Culture, let's just get your first thoughts on this initial bit.
Well, I think he acquitted himself well in the first initial parts of the public statement. You're right; it's very well written. He's understood what the situation and circumstance has been. He knew there was no way to push back the tide with his hands when it came to the moment where the president-elect at current was shot and injured in Pennsylvania. I think at that point in time, I think he realized the writing was on the wall. It was already well understood that the tidal shift in America had changed and global opinions had been very anti-government across the globe, to be fair. So I think he understands that he put himself and his reputation and his companies at risk when he decided to go along with censorship. So coming right out and addressing that first thing in this statement is that's amazing. I think it's very important. If he'd come with something weaker, I think it wouldn't have held as much weight or gravitas. And so when you look at this statement, he's obviously acknowledging all of the mistakes that were made. He's not going to walk away from them, or the fact that he was coerced, or rather, I guess, forced to do some very heavy levying of speech. And I think you can tell here that that's not the direction they're going to go. I think that largely anybody in tech has probably had a similar conversation with the president-elect that he had. They all seem to be throwing the $1 million penalty at the new incoming administration for inauguration. So I have a sense that that's their mea culpa, and they'll probably all do similar things to this in the form of a mea culpa, and then try to move forward. Because you do not want to be in one of these social media platforms and be at odds with a government and administration that was looking at getting rid of 230 to begin with.
Marvin? Just that initial thing. We're going to watch a lot more in a minute, but just any take homes from that initial bit?
I want to commend the developers that put together this update, because from my count, he blinked twice in those 30 seconds, and that is a new record for Mr. Zuckerberg. But yes, I agree. Look, you can't go back to your roots unless you've strayed, and that is everyone strayed. And the problem was, in November, all of a sudden, all these companies got an oh crap moment, because all of a sudden, if Donald Trump had lost the popular vote, they could have still pretended, oh, it's just a vocal minority, it's the Electoral College. No, at this point, we have to admit that there has been a massive, irrevocable shift that has happened within American culture, and people do not want these leftist, identity, politically driven policies anymore. So that's why you're seeing every company from Facebook to McDonald's and to Whitney Cummings all of a sudden just chasing that one thing that they want to be called more than anything on social media right now, and that's based.
Yeah. Good
Based,
take home.
based is the pace car of culture.
It really is.
Yeah. No, good take homes. We're going to watch a lot more now, so just buckle up.
But there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second,
let's sit there. So take homes that I got from that. Cultural tipping point. The Overton window's been dragged way too far now, right? It's been dragged and dragged and dragged way over to the right now. People have had enough. It was dragged way over to the left, right? That was where the Overton window was sat. Overton window, for those who don't know, is essentially where it's what is deemed
appropriate
to discuss and just talk about generally in day-to-day life, the moral fiber of our society, right? And so when we've been talking about these things that they're just pathetic and nonsense and blah blah blah, the Overton window wasn't sat there yet, right? It wasn't sat there. The Overton window was sat back where everyone else was talking about it. The Overton window has now been dragged, much to the malign of Democrats and other left-leaning parties across the world. The Overton window is now dragged way over to the right because obviously they've gone way too far and people have had enough. So he talks about the cultural tipping point. That to me is what he's referencing there. And he talks about, like 2016 election, legacy media. That's it. Yeah, people have been, it went too far talking about democracy, blah, blah, blah. I like the fact he's like, no, fact checkers, nah, they're too politically biased. Yeah, of course they are, obviously. Einstein doesn't take a genius to figure that out. And I particularly enjoy the fact he's going to a community note style of fact checking. I guess it's not even fact checking, but he's going to a community note style way to moderate the landscape of the social medias. And the reason why that's good is that it is, well, one, it's interesting that he notes it because he's saying you wouldn't do that if he didn't think it worked. So he thinks it works, right? Which is good. Is it perfect? No, of course not. Do they still get it wrong? Yeah, of course they do. The percentage is quite low though. And it's just interesting. It's this to me, I just like the fact that the Overton window is shifting so far. I enjoy that a lot. So there you go. Yeah, there's that. Talks about it being, all political and things like that. It's a pretty just blunt admission. Yeah, culture.
No, I'm with you. I mean, this is exactly the terms that we were talking about that needed to change in society across the Western world. The Overton window not only had shifted so far to the left that there is going to be an overcorrection. I mean, and we'll have to be at odds with that as well in the future. But for now, I anticipate that the changes in the board that were made, were also very thought out and calculated to support this type of a new, community note style program. Also, people who are a little bit more conservative minded or a little more, business forward guys were added to the board of directors. These are people who understand that the American people do not like to be manipulated by intelligence agencies and so on and so forth. So the fact that they are headed towards, more simple and easily understandable, definable and defensible, community standards, I think that'll only make it easier for people to communicate clearly. And for those who are overly emotional and a little bit more politically biased to be dismissed. And I think that's what we've been lacking for the better part of 12 years.
Yeah. Marv?
So I think that if you look at social media over the last couple of years, you can see the decline of Facebook and Meta in general. Now, Instagram still does very well, but yeah, they tried launching Threads. That was a total no-go. Nobody has Threads, except for James Gunn. But the you look at I think Zuckerberg woke up one day and realized, oh my gosh, Elon Musk is now seen as the arbiter of free speech. Like he's seen as just this like the guy who brought free speech back to social media, and Zuckerberg was suddenly seen as, as the man. Basically, he was seen as the face of censorship, of controlled social media, and he didn't like that one bit. I think he sees what Elon has done with X, and now all of a sudden it is a scramble, overcorrection, because Elon is doing to him what he did to Tom and MySpace. Back in the early mid to late 2000s. I mean, it's going to be an extreme overcorrection to make Facebook and Meta in general more like X, to get more in line with what people want.
Yeah. Yep.
And they added Dana White to the board also, which from UFC, which, I mean, that's an awesome move. I like Dana White a lot.
Well, they also got rid of an ex UK politician that was part of their board as well.
Yeah,
and replaced him with a guy who literally invented a sport where you just slap each other in the face as hard as you can.
That's right. Yeah. No, I mean, look, you got UFC's obviously Dana White, but you also got Joel Kaplan. So you got some people who are a little bit more heady on the understanding of what people find acceptable and not acceptable. I mean, it's very interesting. And Kaplan has his faults, but he's not a bad choice for a former political aide. So I mean, you're gonna have to have government ties. That's just the way it is. But there's that.
Yeah, well, not what they were doing with the former UK politician, but yeah, that's besides the point. Let's watch a lot more, and then we'll pick this back up.
We're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far.
Now, let's just talk about that just real quick. So that alone, what he says there, right? What started, it's almost what he's saying is the perfect representation of what left-wing ideology is. It started to be inclusive, but it's now just been used to shut people out. Is it not? Is that not exactly what he's...
Yep. Yeah, no, he said it. He said it exactly. And the mainstream media, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marvin, but the mainstream media is saying, well, he's turning his back on hate speech. Yeah, because people can openly talk about how much of a lunatic you are on Meta now.
Well,
watch
hate
out.
Speech is nonsense. It's absolute
yes, we know. Everybody knows that is globalist, neo-Marxist bullshit.
What he's done here.
Had to add that one in there.
What he's done, Culture, is he has taken a sledgehammer to the safe space. You know, they turn the meta channels into their safe space where, you know, nothing can get me in my safe space. And he has smashed those walls down. And now they can't deal with it. I'm already seeing people on Facebook who are basically like abandoning the ship because they're like, I have to go to Blue Sky. It's no longer safe here. I've seen people say it's no longer safe because they're not going to silence right-wing voices anymore. And what he said about, you know, the weaponization of inclusivity, I mean, 100%. Look, here's the thing. People didn't suddenly start running to the right. The left took the line and pulled it toward them, which made people that were just left of center now glaringly right-wing compared to the new barometer of how we measure these things.
Yeah. It's the whole thing. Utterly hilarious. And everyone can bugger off to Blue Sky as much as they want, but enjoy all of the, well, I say that enjoy, they probably would, but it's now got a massive issue with child material on there. Because funnily enough, where leftists go, child material tends to follow. It's disgusting.
It's weird how that happens. I'm sure there's no correlation, right?
Hey, look, they got to get their ditty fixed somewhere.
Yeah, let's listen to this a bit more now.
So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high severity violations. And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed. So we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams. Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there.
Yep.
Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it. It'll take time to get this right.
There's not much more left there, to be honest. So a few things, right? That's pretty much all of it. I see a lot of people in the chat going, "Don't believe him. He did this. Blah blah blah." Look, yeah. I agree. Is he being opportunistic? Yes. Is he reading the political landscape?
Yeah.
Yes. This is not still that. It's not actually a bad thing, though. There's a few things to consider. Facebook's monthly subscriber base or usage base is about 3 billion.
Yep.
Right. If that then turns into a I don't know, a slightly weaker source version of Twitter, because it's not going to be like Twitter, but if it's a slightly weaker source version of Twitter, that's not a bad thing at all. It's actually a really good thing. Why? Few reasons. It pushes the Overton window further, which is what you all want. You all want that Overton window to move. You want people to feel emboldened to say what they believe genuinely. It's the only thing that will stop this absolute insanity that's been happening in the world. People rising up and actually saying what they want to say. So that's good. That's not a bad thing. He also effectively does blame the former administration.
Yeah.
He literally says, this last 4 years, it's been difficult. It's been really hard. They've been wanting to censor us. They've been going after us. Is some of that shifting blame? Yeah, sure. Do I believe that, when Trump's gone, if by some bizarre turn of events another Democrat gets in power, that he wouldn't then try and cozy up with them? I don't know. I actually don't know, because he's not actually done that yet, right? He's not tried to cozy up in the way that he is now, right? He's not done that. Now, is that because he's scared of Trump? Yeah, maybe. That's not a bad thing, right? You can view this as a case of like the end justifies the means, right? You don't have to like him. You don't have to trust what he's doing. If he says, if he does half the things he says he's going to do, the world will be better positioned to rid ourselves of this utter cancer that's been happening. And that's good. So that's really it. I don't have much else to say on this, to be fair. I think that's kind of it from me. Let's hear from you first, Marv, actually.
I think, look, the guy, he is about as sincere in this video as a get well card from a funeral director. It's not, the problem is he doesn't have to be sincere for people to actually reap the benefits of this. I think that right now we're seeing a lot of scary things, especially coming out of Europe, where you can get slapped in bracelets because your Facebook post, upset somebody or made or triggered somebody. I see this as an absolute win. And, I also want to say our good friend Culture Casino wrote an excellent article about it on that Park Place, which came out yesterday. But yeah, I see it as an absolute win. And if he does, turn the other way, if the left comes back into power after the Trump administration, well, then we're going to see exactly how deep the hypocrisy level goes.
Yeah, but I think I like this, Marvin and Nate. I think I like this not because you it's easy to doubt his sincerity. I mean, for those of you in the chat blaming him for the things that he did, I'm on board. I understand. I'm just saying this publicly puts him and his companies, and I say that properly, companies, because it's all the Meta platforms, front and center. It makes them publicly accountable for maintaining free speech on that platform. Going back on this will have negative repercussions, the likes of which Meta has never seen. So this had to have been very carefully thought out by him and his team before he moved forward with it. Obviously he's the largest single owner of the company, so he can drive it wherever he wants. But at the same time, much like some of Musk's statements that have been uncomfortable for him to keep moving forward with, this will put, it's not about comfort. It's about being publicly accountable for your repositioning. Do I blame him for this? No, because he sees other social media companies coming for him and he wants Meta to survive and he wants to not be a douche anymore because publicly Zuck's a douche. Everybody hates this dude or did. He's tried to
go ahead. Been on a bit of a redemption arc lately. Did you see he was on like some powerboat board thing?
Yeah. He was with an American flag. That was what.
It was like a weird. That's actually really hard to do.
Yeah.
Super hard to do. I was like, what the hell is going on? Is this? I thought it was AI. I genuinely thought it was AI.
It was him really doing it. But it like you said, I mean, he is a. He's on a bit of a rehabilitation tour, is what I would call it. He's trying to rehab his rep.
Well, sorry, Culture. I think what we're seeing is Meta is doing what we always say that every company needs to do. They're following the money. They're following public sentiment. It's the anti-Bud Light. You know, whereas Bud Light went entirely against where people were going, where they went entirely in the opposite direction of their target audience. I think Zuckerberg sees the way the wind is blowing, and he's following where the money goes, the way any businessman should if they're trying to make money.
Yeah. No, I mean, the ultimate destination for any corporation is profit. And if they're a publicly held corporation, it's absolutely driven in the fiduciary duty of the company. So when I look at this, I'm like, this is responsible business operation. And look, you do not want to be at odds with government. And if he's legitimately saying that he's backed by the Trump administration, which he will be, we're going to push free speech back across the world again, whether the globalists like it or not. So, you know, Klaus Schwab, you effederate douchebag, the world's coming for you. You and your WEF cohorts. And those of you who are, you know, WEF pals out there in the world, there will be no safe space for you, because the world doesn't like your, you know, one world government idea and turning us all into serfs. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
No, it's fair. We've got some super chats about this, so we're going to get to them now. You guys can have your say now with super chats, guys. We've got Streamlabs pinned to the top of the chat. Best way to check on our bucker too, or you can send it via YouTube. So Kevin Apollo says Zuck took up MMA, and like your favorite fighters, fitness influencer, and wrestlers, once you have to earn it in order to succeed, you get a little red pill. Now, this is true. The psychology of having to put in effort and it being finite, you either do or you do not do it. It does teach people essentially normal core values in life, which we say, you know, nowadays is being red pilled. But yeah, the ability to understand that you have to earn something in life is not something which a lot of people have. It removes that entitlement, basically. So yeah, completely agree there, Kevin, my dude. Hemorrhoid hurts.
I was going to say, Kevin Apollo is my co-host on Toonie Talk TV. So good to see him here in the chat.
Yeah, he's also yoked like you are, Nate, by the way. He's also jacked.
He's a dude. He's got some really good input there. Hemorrhoid hurts says, my thoughts, he'll always be cock Zuckerberg to me. And says, so litigate the fact checkers to oblivion, cock Zuck. Compensate Facebook users whose lives have been destroyed. This is the thing, right? Is he going to restore banned accounts? That'll be the sign that he's actually agreeing what, you know, he believes what he says. Stephen McBride says, don't you think Zuck looks better with the long hair? I mean, he looks like a human.
Yeah. I don't like the shaved head look he was rocking.
No.
Well, he was also really pale.
Yeah. Well, and you know what?
Tan now.
Yeah, he looks human, and you know what? I guess his wife kind of digs it too, right?
When he had the shaved head look, I thought he looked like one of the people from the Matrix, like when they just come out of the pod.
Yeah,
true. Well, even just the short hair, he looked like that. Just like fucking bloody weird.
Yeah, he just looks more human, and the fact that he is into MMA and stuff like that has helped considerably. I think that's a real conversation. It is, as Kevin, said, it is about earning it, but it's also about something else. I mean, it's about having some testosterone, which I think he was probably missing. You know,
yeah, that does help. To be fair, yeah. You know, Kaichioki has super chatted $5 and says this can be summed up as, "Oh, my side lost. Let me toe the line over here now." He's just reading the room. Have you noticed he's being copying everything that Elon has done lately? Maybe. Maybe.
Can I want to push back? I want to push back.
A bad thing.
I want to push back just a little, and I agree with you, but I think that you're seeing the entirety of Silicon Valley, even prior to the election, start to push back against some of the ideologies that they had been in a position to support. I think you're seeing a lot of people from Silver Lake and stuff like that, and a lot of financial institutions start to see the writing on the wall that the populace at large was largely against these kind of ideologically supported, very myopic view things that they'd fallen into the trap of supporting. You're starting to see this in lots of places, including the pushback against DEI, ESG, Bridge by all of these major corporations now, who see that the people that not only help produce their products but also consume them have zero interest in purchasing them if they're driven by all this ideology. So you've seen a shift in energy markets and everything else. People coming to the realization that we cannot possibly produce enough of these minerals to build out an infrastructure to make an all electric bologna sausage, society. And when the people that you're trying to sell this to come to realize that there's no way everybody's going to be able to drive a car if everything's an electric car, if they start to see the rising costs of energy, and how it's produced in these incredibly ineffective ways, it's like I think everybody arrived at the same conclusion, and it's only the true believers, the radical cultists that are out there that believe in this progressive neo-Marxist postmodern garbage. That's it. It's just the hardcore, cultists, the adherents.
Agreed. I wish you'd waited to say all of that, because the next super chat is basically the same thing.
Oh, so, sorry. I'm sorry.
I was trying to get to it, but never mind.
Just hit me.
I did try. Zephyr super chatted $5 and says, "Would he be saying this if Kamala had been elected?" I don't think so. Your response is exactly the same thing. For fuck's sake. I kept trying.
You want to repeat it?
No, culture will not repeat that. Thank you. But Zephyr also used his monthly membership super chat and says, "I think Zuckerberg genuinely drank the censorship Kool-Aid for a while, but a lot of countries have gone way too far and he soured on it." Well, I guess culture's response would be very similar to that too, actually.
I'm sorry.
Try and group them all together. And you
I know, but I couldn't hold it in.
It doesn't matter. And last but not least, it's good input, mate. It's good input. Last but not least, Kevin Apollo says, "I effing love culture." There you go. You got some.
To be fair, he sent that before you did the thing with the super chat, culture.
Yeah. I know, and I love Kevin too. He's awesome. So there you go.
And Tooneytown TV is apparently gifted.
Hey, that's you. That's him.
That is Marvin.
Well, apparently, I'm being pulled and I'm trying to game the system.
You are being pulled. Yeah.
I just bought 5 more votes.
There you go. There you go, guys. There you go. We will.